Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Gurudeva. Okay, so Upanishad, Keno Upanishad. Few of you may be familiar with having heard different Upanishads. You would have heard different discourses of different people. You would have noticed, those who know, those who have heard of it, will notice that Upanishad has a particularly abstruse language. It is not generally very straightforward. Like, for example, we did so many different shlokas. We did Shamala Dandakam, we did Aditya Hridayam, recently we did Dhruvastuti, we did Mukunda Mala Stotram. Many of these works are generally straightforward. Straightforward, na? Whatever is the meaning, we try to go a little deeper in terms of trying to understand the layer and you can access it. But Upanishads are not like that. Upanishads are essentially works that are fairly abstract for the common thinker. Somebody who is engaged in the world and generally day-to-day living, engaged in the world, engaged with people, transacting, thinking, working, walking, desiring, aspiring, achieving, failing, happy, sad. Right? I feel sad, I go to a movie, I watch a movie, I feel comfortable, relaxed, I come back. So if you are living a life of just engaging with the world, continuous engagement with the world, this kind of language may seem very abstract. We did the Ishavasya Upanishad. I don't know how many were present, but we did Ishavasya Upanishad 3 years ago. Even that has language which is not very straightforward. Right? It has verses which are confusing. And the reason why Upanishads are the way they are, right? Because it is trying to address or look at the most fundamental concepts, the most fundamental ideas of three things: Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. Jiva is what we are, Jagat is what this world is, Ishvara is the creator, and the relationship between this. Right? Upanishads actually dealing with the relationship between all of this. And that is why it requires focused attention. The starting chant that we did, Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Mavid Vishavahai. It is actually a shlok or a verse from the from the Vedas, where you actually are praying that may the teacher and the taught, both of them, travel together in this journey. Saha, Saha Naha Avatu. May we travel together. May we travel together in this journey of learning, teaching, guiding each other, because it is a very intimate subject. And that is why Upanishads were generally, traditionally never taught to students who are not an adhikari. Adhikari means not, The direct translation would be not deserving, undeserving students, which means somebody who is not prepared to pay attention to this, who is not prepared to focus on something which is a little deeper to understand the truth of things. If someone's not prepared for it mentally, they're not in the space and they're so busy with குழந்தைகள், work, husband, மாமியார் மாமனார், house, family, debt, loan. They're so consumed by this and we don't have the mind space, it becomes very difficult to understand this. It can remain on the surface. It'll be words. It'll remain on the surface, but you will not be able to touch what it is trying to say. It is similar to even when you do your prayers. If you don't do it like an activity, every day morning I have to get up, I have to put a velakku to Ambal, or I have to put a diya to Bhagavan, and then I have to do some chants, I have to do this thing, I have to do an arati, I have to do a naivedyam quickly, katlayo, kalkando, yedo, whatever you have, bring, I have to do some naivedyam, I'll do an arati, and then I have to go. And I feel good, okay, I've done something, right? That routine becomes, if it just remains as a routine, and if you have not invested even a little bit of time to think about what am I doing, what is my relationship with Bhagavan, when I'm standing there, when I'm standing in the temple, when I'm standing in my altar, when I'm sitting down quietly, what is my relationship with that silence that is there? What is my relationship? What is happening there? If this exploration is not there, if we don't find that mind space, getting into Upanishad becomes difficult. It may remain as an abstract subject. Actually, I've seen people who are unable to get what it's saying. For example, very simple example I'll give you. There's a person I was talking to maybe couple of years ago, and I was telling the person about going inwards and looking within. The question the person asked is, looking within, should I look at the liver or the heart and the spleen and the the veins and the blood? Should I visualize that? So when looking within is still in the realm of matter and material, the level of conversation becomes difficult there. When I say somebody close your eyes and look within, and if you start imagining, oh, where is my heart? Within means I'm start looking at my heart inside my this thing, my lungs, my stomach, my diaphragm, my intestine. That is not looking within. Looking within is you are trying to go into yourself by withdrawing yourself from all that is material and trying to see what is it that constitutes the I. What is it that is constituting this person that I am, the first person? I have the subjective experience, right, of this first person. What is that? We have to do that. Only when we do that can the Upanishad start making we get some access to the Upanishad. It starts to make sense a little bit. That is why in the Vedic method, you have the ashrama, we have the vanaprastha and then the sannyasa. Right? Vanaprastha it's typically tied to age. Unfortunately, those times it was meaningful, but it doesn't have to be stuck to age. Vanaprastha is the time when you are wanting to withdraw, and what you do is called as upasana. During the grahastha, all the things that you did like a routine. During the vanaprastha, you are trying to go deeper into it and do upasana. Upasana means closing my eyes. I'm visualizing. I am not always standing up and doing arti. I'm sitting down and visualizing I'm doing arti to Bhagavan. I'm visualizing that Bhagavan is there. Like how in Mantramala Pushpastavam, Matrika Mantramala, the work where Adi
Shiva,
Shankara,
Shiva, Shiva അതുകൊണ്ട് മറന്നത്
Shiva,
ശിവ
yeah, Shiva Mahimna Stotram is one. There's another one called, I know what you're saying. So there are these slow stotras where you visualize the um, the actual aradhana that you're doing. You internalize it, right? You internalize them. This is upasana. And
Shiva
from
Manasa Puja. Yeah.
Shiva Manasa Puja, correct. Thank you, ma'am. So as you do this, you try to internalize whatever you're doing it externally. This is the process of vanaprastha or upasana. Upasana is what you do during vanaprastha. Now, if this is not done at all, and if we jump into the Upanishad, it may seem very abstract. Because if the Upanishad says you have to look within, then we will go searching the liver and the spleen and the and the kidney. Where closing your eyes and going within essentially means you're sitting with whatever is here right now as it is. You're just sitting with it. Going inwards means you're withdrawing yourself from all the external activities, the external engagements, the external transactions, and sitting with this. You're going within, which means you're going into the realm of thoughts, and from thoughts, you're pulling yourself back and you're going into a space where there's a certain kind of blankness, there is a certain kind of you don't know what it is, but still you sit with it. I don't know what it is, but you still sit with it. This is something that we should slowly start. Those who have not done it, we should slowly start doing this to at least then try to understand the ideas, the deeper ideas that the Upanishad is presenting. And which is why Upanishads traditionally was always taught in proximity with the teacher, with the guru, in absolute proximity with the teacher. And a lot of times the Upanishad that guru would teach is not necessarily through the words. It would be through action, by observing, by seeing. So it is an experience through which the student learns, and then the words become a pointer to that. But unfortunately, today we don't have that luxury. But should we be denied of this knowledge? No. At the same time, we should receive it in the right way. Because otherwise, it can become something that, oh, enak theriyume. The moment you say, oh, enak Upanishad theriyume, that's it. And it's very beautifully, it's going to be covered in Kena Upanishad. Very beautifully, it will be covered. How the guru tells the Sishya, when you think you know, you actually don't know. So this is the realm. It's a very abstract space, right? So how do you deal with this? So understand this. The important thing is when you come to an Upanishad, you are not talking about a Bhagavan. You're not talking about some entity. Although in this Upanishad, Uma Haivavatim comes. Devi comes herself. Pratyakshama, she comes to the deities, Indra, Vayu, and Agni. And she reveals Brahman. And she says that I am that Brahman. So Uma or Devi Parvati, she appears in this. But you are not looking for a form or a deity in the Upanishads. You're trying to understand the truths of your own being, and your relationship with the supreme creation. Because we are the only creatures on this planet that are conscious of our own self. This awareness, this ability to be aware, is only offered to human beings. Animals are instinctive. We are aware. We can think, we can imagine, we can process, we can be creative. I can plan. See, today somebody comes and hits you. Suppose you're an animal, right? You go to a lion, you go hit the lion, chuma ukandirukkum, it will hit you back, right? But if somebody comes and hits you, you will immediately see around. Is this the right place to react? Is this the correct opportunity to react? Otherwise, you'll be quiet. You will hold back that insult. You will go, you will plan, you will process, you will try to make right situations. அதுக்கப்புறம் அந்த ஆள் எங்கேயாவது தனியா மாட்டுச்சு, அதுக்கப்புறம் போட்டு சாத்துவாங்க. Right? You look for an opportune moment to get back your revenge. Animals don't do this. Humans have this ability. We can process, we can ideate, we can imagine. So this ability to be aware that what I am doing, am I doing, I am the one who's doing this, to be conscious, is a great blessing that only human beings have. So to that extent, to be able to get in touch with what is it that I am really? Am I this body? Am I this mind? Am I this thoughts? Am I this feelings? Am I this? What am I? This inquisitive questioning must arise. So Upanishads, when I say it is an abstract knowledge and it is for an adhikari or somebody who's deserving, I mean is that you have to make yourself deserving. We don't say that, okay, I'm not deserving, then you walk away. Right? We don't say, oh, it is too abstract, I don't get it. It is, we're not talking about quantum physics, or we're not talking about differential mathematics or calculus, right? Oh, yo, it's too difficult. This is something that is about you, about me. So somewhere we should try to know and think that this is about me. This is being spoken about me, not some Brahman, some Atman, some Bhagavan. No, it is spoken about me. And so let me spend that time. Let me try to make myself deserving to understand it. And then we'll realize slowly, slowly, slowly. You can talk to people who have been in this for a little while. When they started off with nothing, not knowing anything, but then listening, 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 listening again and again, it becomes familiar. That's what I said. It's not difficult by the subject matter. It is difficult because we don't have the practice of it. பழக்கம் இல்லாதனால கஷ்டம் இது, அவ்வளவுதான். பழகிதுன்னா, once you start putting yourself to continuous engagement with this, right? Sundar Mami, great examples. I'd say that few years ago there was no access to a lot of this, but now they're completely immersed into this, right? But that has to happen with your own will, your own intention. Your own intention, I say, I want to make myself deserving of this knowledge because it is about me. I need to know. There is this burning desire. I want to know the truth. Everybody is, all shastras are talking about it, right? Everybody talks spirituality nowadays. Instagram spirituality. Everybody is giving gyan. I want to know it firsthand. See, one of the beautiful things about Upanishads is it is many ways non-sectarian. Actually, if you look at it, it is, although it is in Sanskritam, it is non-sectarian. The ideas there are so fundamental. It is like physics, for example. Physics has no religion. Whether force equals mass times acceleration. I say that in Sanskritam, I say that in English, I say that in Arabic. It doesn't become Hindu, Muslim, Christian, right? Force is not a Christian idea because it is said in English. So, in the same way, the Upanishadic idea, if we access it, it's very non sectarian. And which is why it is one of the most beautiful. Upanishads are a collection of texts which you can keep aside your religion, all the religious conflicts, contradictions that come, keep that aside and look at this very clinically. You can have a very clinical approach to the Upanishads. That will still make a lot of sense. Right? And that is one of the most important things. One of the beautiful things that in approaching the Upanishad is also to have a logical mind. And all of us today have some amount of logical minds because we worked in the corporate, we whatever, whether we worked in the corporates or not, we are in a world where logic is dominant. So Upanishad is the access to Upanishad is through logical processing. It requires certain amount of logic, not the mathematical logic, but just the logic to understand the difference between, okay, if it says something is temporary, you need logic to understand is something temporary. Yes, in your life experience, you see things come, go, people come, go, things are growing and falling, it's born, something decays. You just have to make logical conclusions, and some of these things will start making sense. Right? That is all you need. But you need to put complete attention to this. That's most important. Upanishads are not a text that you pick up and you chant like a sloka or a stotra or a mantra and say, "Oh Bhagavan, I'm chanting Upanishads every day." I take up as a sankalpa, and then the end of it, I want my job to be secured. I want a promotion, my child to be able to study. None of that will happen. Let's be very clear. Upanishad padikirtanala, if you think suddenly your life is going to, you're going to get, it's not Kanakadhara Stotram. But then why is it, then why do I care? Right? If it's not going to give me what I need now, today, my troubles, my problems, why do I care? Why do you care? Is because it gives you a perspective, a completely different perspective of looking at things. Haven't we all experienced this in our lives? When you are a small child, we were talking about making, last satsang we were talking about making sand castles and how the child is so involved, and then when the sand castle breaks, the child is like completely wailing and crying, like the adod olagame dunya ujad gaya types, right? So they oh and all that. But the same child, when it's grown up, when he looks at it, don't you, as an adult, when you look at or think about it, or somebody narrates this to you, don't you laugh at it? What has changed? Why aren't you, as an adult, making the same hue and cry when you build a sand castle and it breaks? Why? Because your perception has changed. The way you see it has changed. Your perspective of life has become broader. You understand that this is child's play and it's meant to break, it's meant to be temporary. What is the point? I'll build another. Of course, it's effort. I may have done a lot of intricate windows and doors and all of that, but that's the nature of it. So I don't, as a grown up, I don't sit and cry. There's this artist in Odisha called Sudarshan. He makes beautiful sand art. Very beautiful. He makes it on the beach of Puri beach. Lala, he'll make this large sand art, and then he gets invited. I don't know. He's been awarded several awards. He gets invited to different places where he goes and makes these sand arts. When he makes it, he knows it's going to be. He can't carry that sand art. See, today you do a painting. Suppose you're an artist, you do a painting on a nice canvas. You want to put it up on the wall. Imagine his artwork is on sand. It's going to get washed away anyways. He cannot preserve that sand art. Right? His name was Sudarshan Patnaik or something. So, Sudarshan Patnaik. So imagine you have grown up now and you'll think about your past in your childhood and you will laugh on it when somebody comes and narrates it. Right? What has changed? Your perspective, the way you're seeing things. This is what the Upanishad offers you. Upanishad offers you a way of seeing life, a way of seeing your interactions, way of seeing your thoughts, the way of seeing your emotions and desires, the way of seeing how the world is operating, way of seeing what is this larger entity that is the creator or Brahman or Bhagavan or whatever. What is it? It gives you a perspective. When you get that perspective, then the way you deal with your problems is very different. It is not like suddenly when you have understood some of the Upanishad, some parts, you got some taste of it, suddenly your monetary problems, financial problems, or any household problems are getting fixed. No, but the way you see it becomes completely different. And this is what the Upanishads offer. So our going in position is very important. Right? When you're going into an Upanishad, very important to understand what is it offering me. Kaha shokah ko moha kaha shokah. This is what Ishavasya Upanishad says. Ekastvam anupashyati. Where is their grief? Where is their delusion? It gives me that sense of oneness. This is what the Upanishad offers you. So, and what is this Upanishad? It is essentially a bunch of texts that has been put together. So, a quick, brief rundown. Those who know, just bear with me so that everybody comes onto the same page. Vedas are largely broken into 4 parts. The Samhita, the Brahmana, the Aranyaka, and the Upanishads. The Samhitas are praises, stuti to various gods. Varuna, Indra, Vayu, Agni, Soma, various gods, because these are Vedic texts. That is Samhita. Brahmana are the rituals. If you're wanting to do a particular homa, how to go about it, how to place the bricks, how to keep, which direction should we have the head of the homa kunda, what are the dravya that should go in, what are the ingredients that should go in, how deep should it be, how wide should it be, for what purpose, are you doing it for rain, are you doing for progeny, are you doing it for cattle, are you doing for prosperity, what are you doing it for? There are different homas for different purposes. And in the homa, what do you use to chant? You use the Samhita. The Samhita is used in the homa so that you invite and invoke those particular deities and devatas so that they can confer upon you those blessings. This is the Samhita and the Brahmana. The third comes the Aranyaka. The Aranyaka is named as such because it means, Aranya means forest. Aranyaka is something that is taught to the disciple by the teacher in isolation in the forest. Means what? The Samhita and the Brahmana are activities of a Grahastha. You wanting to set up a house, a family, a society, a kingdom, all of that you want to do. You want progeny, you want cattle, you want to grow, you want to prosper. All of this you want to do Samhita and the Brahmana. The Aranyaka is where the disciple or the student or the individual wants to know a little bit more. He's not satisfied. Or he's becoming a little physically incapable slowly because with age, I can't do so much homas, I can't do all of these rituals and all of that. Then the Aranyaka comes where the teacher teaches saying, sorry, the teaches saying that you can now internalize this. Internalize Bhagavan, internalize the deity, internalize the process. Like Amma and Mama mentioned, the Shiva Manasa Puja, Mantra Matrika Pushpamala Stavam, internalize. The idea of Aranyaka is that. The last is the Upanishad, the fourth one. Upanishads are in the Vedas, the portion which talks none of that. It completely makes a dimensional shift. And it says, forget all this. I'm going to talk to you about the highest truth. I'm going to talk about the relationship between you and the world and you and that creator and who you are. I'm going to reveal to you. So there's this dimensional shift that happens in the Upanishads. And Upanishads are generally towards the trailing part of the Vedas. So there are 4 Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharvana. And each of the Vedas has these 4 sections, largely thereabouts. Right? Some, like for example, Atharvana doesn't have an Aranyaka as an example, right? So it may be possible. But largely 4 sections in each Veda. And then in the Upanishad is usually the trailing part, usually, but not necessarily. For example, in Ishavasya Upanishad, it was in the Samhita portion. The Ishavasya Upanishad is in the Samhita portion, which is the first portion. It's like, how is that possible? Wherever in the Vedas there is a reference or it talks about this ultimate truth, it talks about that Brahman, it talks about you and your relation with that. Wherever it speaks about that, our masters have chosen that as the Upanishad. Right? It is topical in nature, not necessarily structural. From a definition standpoint, it's largely structural, which is why it is called Vedanta. Vedasya antaha Vedanta. Upanishads are called as Vedanta because at the end of the Vedas it comes. Vedasya antaha. But not necessarily at the end. It is also topical. So it can appear in the Aranyaka some places. It can appear in the Brahmana. Some Upanishads can appear in the Samhita also. And that's all right. So there are 108 Upanishads, but there are many more. But notably 108 Upanishads because there is one Upanishad called Muktiko Upanishad, which lists these 108. Muktiko Upanishad, there is one Upanishad which lists the 108 Upanishads. So that becomes a reference to say, okay, there are 108 Upanishads. But what Adi Shankara has done, he's picked up 10 principal Upanishads. 10, 11. Some include Shvetasvatara, some don't. But roughly 10 principal Upanishads are considered Isha, Kena, Katha, Munda, Mandukya, Prashna, Aitareya, Taitareya, Chandogya, Brihadaranyaka. These are the 10 Upanishads. And why has he picked those 10? Because there is another work called Brahma Sutras. Brahma Sutras are an extremely analytical work in trying to reveal this concept of Brahman, concept of the supreme reality. It's a very analytical work. About 500 and 35, 545, 555, depending on which school you are, Dvaita, Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, they have different numbers of verses in Brahma Sutras. But necessarily, this was written by, everybody agrees, was written by somebody called as Badarayana. Badarayana, mostly acclaimed as Vyasa himself. Bhagavan Veda Vyasa, another name Badarayana, Edidirkarnu Cholli, is the popular belief. So this text was written by, which is why we have Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam. Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. So Shankaram Shankaracharyam. Shankara, Lord Shankara came down as Shankaracharya. Keshavam Badarayana. Narayana came down as Badarayana, who is Vyasa. And they together gave the Sutra Bhashya, Brahma Sutra. Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. To these two great Bhagavans or incarnations, we prostrate. Because they have given us one has given the Brahma Sutra, Vyasa, and Acharya, Shankaracharya has given the Bhashya to the Brahma Sutra. Ramanuja has also given a Bhashya, it's called Shri Bhashya. But Badrayana had created this Brahma Sutra. In the Brahma Sutras, there are references to 10 Upanishads. There are references made to 10 Upanishads, which is what Adi Shankara has picked up and said, I am going to expand into each one of these Upanishads, the 10 Upanishads, so that people understand the Upanishad better, and then you can go and understand the Brahma Sutras. So Brahma Sutra புரிஞ்சுக்கணும் அப்படின்னா, you have to understand the Upanishads, because in the Brahma Sutra there are references made to the Upanishads. That is the structure. This is all academic. Okay, I'm just sharing some academic stuff because it's good to know the context. Okay. And also to understand that the Upanishad, as we talk about, is essentially, as I said, is topical. Anywhere in the Vedas that talks about Brahman, that talks about the supreme reality, that talks about Atma, that talks about the relationship between Jiva and Paramatma, wherever these references are there, those sections have been called as Upanishads. There is an Amrita Bindu Upanishad. There is Nadopasana Upanishad. Nada Bindu Upanishad. There is a Rudra Upanishad. There is a Surya Upanishad. There is a Jabala Upanishad. There are so many different Upanishads are there. There are major and minor Upanishads. The 10 I counted are the major Upanishads. We call them as the major, means principle. Ishavasya Upanishad, Kenopanishad, Kathopanishad, Mundakopanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, Prashnopanishad, Aitariya Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. There are 10 principal Upanishads. Now, when I said it's non-sectarian, also, it means it is in the Vedas, and Vedas don't necessarily talk about. In fact, there's one interesting thing you would note. Today we fight Krishna, Shiva, Narayana, all that fight happens, right? Shaivite and Vaishnavite and all of that. The reference to Shiva in the Vedas is very little. The reference of Narayana in the Vedas is very little. In later times only, Shiva and Narayana and Vishnu and all of them became bigger deities because of the Puranas. The Shiva Purana, the Vishnu Purana, all of that made them bigger deities. But in the Vedic literature, they don't exist so big. Shiva is probably found in the Rudram. Right? Narayana is found in the Narayana Suktam or the Vishnu Suktam. Very little. Majority of the Vedic praises were not to these gods. They didn't even feature in the credits. Movie முடிஞ்சப்பறம் credits போகும்ல, their names just appeared like one of those names that just crawled. Major names were 4 names only. Indra, Indra constituted the Veda or the Rig Veda. If you take the Rig Veda, because Rig Veda is the oldest of the Vedas and other Vedas are pretty much, they have taken constituents from the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is the oldest Veda, has 1028 verses. Of that, 200 plus verses, 25% verses are to Indra. Indra was the biggest Bhagavan in the Vedic times, deity, because you needed rain, you needed crops, you needed cattle, you needed prosperity. All that was Indra. So you had Indra, Varuna, Agni, and Soma. These are the four deities or devatas in the Vedic religion. All of that is changed now. Nobody goes to Indra and prays to Indra. Nobody prays to Agni, because we light diya, we lamp and all of that. Agni we celebrate. Varuna, who nobody thinks of Varuna. Varuna was the god of judgment. And then Soma. Soma is essentially an intoxicating plant. Soma rasa. Because these are used for Homa. To do the Homa, you needed Soma. Because we take Soma and then they go into altered states of consciousness. So I'm just laying it out to say that, it's a very different time. So, which is why the Upanishads are non-sectarian in that sense. It's not religious in nature. It is of a time when the Vedic rituals were for these deities, which was the Samhita and the Brahmana and some amount of Aranyaka. But the Upanishads themselves were none of them. It was not for any of them. It was for the supreme reality, the supreme truth. Which is why in all the 10 Upanishads I named, there is very little reference to any Bhagavan, any Devi, any Ambal, any Narayana, any Muruga. No references at all. Ishavasya Upanishad talks of Isha. But Isha is again an abstract representation. In the Keno Upanishad, there is a reference of Uma Haimavatim. That is all. None of the Upanishads, Shweta Svatara, there is a little reference, but otherwise, none of the principal Upanishads, there is any reference to a form, physical Bhagavan in that form. Right? So hence, it does not allow it, there is no room for conflict. There's very little room for conflict, which is why it makes a lot of sense to study the Upanishads. If you want to get away from this conflict, எனக்கு யாரை பிடிச்சிக்கணும்னு தெரியலையே. I don't know if I have to hold Muruga. I don't know to hold Ganapati. I don't know if I have to hold Ambal. I go to a temple, there are so many sannidhis. Every sannidhi I do whatever that Bhagavan requires. But I don't know who to hold. And if you think you are in a place, in a stage in your mind and in your life where you've done all of that, and you want to really come to a place of truth seeking, எனக்கு உண்மை தெரிஞ்சாகணும். ஒரு மூவியில் ஒருத்தன் I remember there's an age-old movie where there's this comedian who keeps coming. எனக்கு ஒரு உண்மை தெரிஞ்சாகணும் அப்படின்னு. I need to know the truth. So if you are coming to a place within you where you want to really know the truth, Upanishads is the place. She is called the Shruti Shirodhara. Shruti Shiro. Shruti Shiro means the peak, the pinnacle of Shruti. Shruti means Vedas. And she's also like Shruti Mata, which means the mother. And it's very beautiful because she so compassionate like a mother. The Upanishads, if you spend time with it, those who have spent the time with it to whatever extent, and those who have experienced this will know that it is extremely comforting. It is extremely more comforting than thinking there is a Bhagavan protecting me. More than that, this knowledge that is there in the Upanishads is far more comforting. That is why it is called Shruti Mata, like a mother, compassionate mother. She opens up our eyes to reality, opens up our eyes to truth, opens up our eyes to understanding things better. By studying Upanishad, your mathematics is not going to improve. Suddenly, your physics is not going to become super sharp. No. But the way you fundamentally perceive things is going to change. It will bring about a change in the way you perceive yourself, the interactions with people, the universe, or what you, this whole confusion. But it must be a burning question within you. It must be a question. And which is why we have 5 minutes. We'll just look at this first verse and we'll continue looking at the detail of the verse next week. But the first verse is very beautiful as a prayer. See, every Upanishad starts with the Mangala a Shanti Patha or a Shanti Shloka that belongs to that Veda. Kenopanishad belongs to Samaveda. So in Samaveda, this particular verse appears as the Shanti Patha, which is Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranaschakshuhu Shrotram Atho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahmopanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Ma Brahma Nirakarod Anirakaranam Astu Anirakaranam Me Astu Tadatmani Nirate Ya Upanishatsu Dharmaste Mai Santu Te Mai Santu. So I've put the meaning also. It says, may my body, my speech, my prana, my senses, my strength be well nourished and fit for this inquiry. Very important, right? If you have indigestion in the stomach, you won't be able to go even to do your office work, right? You'll take an L-Dopa and you'll sit at home and you'll make sure that your stomach is okay. Things that you have to do even as a ritual. Even if you have to get up and just do your regular routine things, you will not be able to do when your stomach is having indigestion, right? So if you're unfit physically, it becomes to do even the basic things that you do as a chore. How much more physically fit you need to be to do an inquiry that requires all your attention, right? So here the prayer goes that may all of this I be fit, may my body, speech, prana, senses, my balam be well nourished and fit for this inquiry. May I recognize all that is there is Brahman as revealed in the Upanishads. So it is already predetermining, or it is in a way going in with the assumption that Upanishads are revealing the Brahman. Why? Because somebody has told me. Some teacher, some guru, there are so many people who are telling that, Upanishad talks about Brahman. Brahman is the supreme reality, the supreme truth. And so I am going in with that understanding or assumption that the Brahman that is mentioned in the Upanishads, may I recognize that all that is there is that Brahman. See, he is already starting with the end in mind. It's very important. This is how we go about in our lives also, right? Even if I have to go out to do shopping, I have an end in mind. Then I need to buy 5 things. Of course, we end up buying 55 things. That's a different problem. But those 5 things are the motivation to start going, making that journey to the shop, right? So you start with the end in mind. So here he's already starting with the end in mind, saying that Brahman is the one that is all pervading, this Ishavasyam, Idam Sarvam, Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat. All that I'm perceiving is this Brahman, this Bhagavan, this principle that is there. I'm sitting here right now. Right now, I close my eyes. This Brahman is there. This Bhagavan is there. This presence is there continuously. Right? May this Brahman that is declared in the Upanishads, may I experience that Brahman here now. May I never deny or turn away from Brahman. Right? So beautiful, right? Maham Brahma Nirakuryam. May I not turn my head away from Brahman. May it not become that if for time pass I think about Bhagavan. right? Or only when I have a little bit of discomfort. Whenever I have discomfort, I think, "Ayo, kadavule, kadavule." Right? Let us not do that kind of engage. Let us not have that kind of an engagement that I look to Bhagavan only when I'm in trouble or disturbed or perturbed. Why? The same Bhagavan can give you understanding also. So when I'm feeling fresh, when I'm feeling active, I'm feeling energetic, why don't I invest in understanding the truths that are there in the scriptures? Why don't I divert my mind towards some spiritual activities that enables me to understand these truths much better? So may I never deny Brahman, which means may I not turn away from that. May my pursuit of the Brahman continue to be there. Then may Brahman never be denied to me, which means if I'm seeking this knowledge, this spiritual, deep spiritual knowledge, may it not be denied to me, right? Like the beautiful story of Jabala. Remind me next time. If someone can remind me, I'll just talk about this small story of this boy called Jabala, Jabala's son.
Japali ಇರ್ತೀನಿ
Uh,
ಅಮ್ಮ
so
ಭಯಂಕರ
yeah, so next week I'll we'll spend like 2-3 minutes on that story, but let it never be denied to me. Let this knowledge, this understanding, this truth never be denied to me, because I can go into different states of delirium in my mind. I can start thinking all sorts of things, or I may be in some conditions where உனக்கு கிடையாது அது, you're not eligibility பத்தி பேசினோம். We started off saying eligibility, deserving, undeserving. May I not be denied this because I'm a sincere seeker. Then he says, let there be no separation between us. Right? There is be Mama Brahma Nirakarod Anirakaranam. So let this, may I not, that may there be no separation between me and Brahman. Anirakaranam me astu. Let there be no separation between this truth and that which I'm seeking. There is a beautiful line that Rumi says, the poet Rumi, the philosopher, poet philosopher Jalaluddin Rumi says, that which you are seeking is seeking you. It's a very profound line. That which you are seeking is seeking you. So, to that extent, may I not be separate from this Brahman, this truth, this Bhagavan, whatever that I'm seeking, I'm looking for. Then it says, may I remain established in the self. Aninakaranam me astu Atmani narate, tat Atmani narate. May I be established in this self, in this knowledge, in this understanding. Ya Upanishatsu. May all the truths and the disciplines taught in the Upanishad. Ya Upanishadsu dharmaste Mai santu te mai santu. May they rest in me, may they be in me, may they be established in me. So this is the prayer with which we are starting the Upanishad, the Kena Upanishad. Right? So I very sincerely request that during the week, try to pick up some, maybe you can, I've, for those who don't know where to go, etc., I've put the last Isha Upanishads audio, the playlist on YouTube. Listen to it, because it is a way of thinking. As I said, it's a way of processing, way of, you're trying to change the way you're seeing things, right? Like I remember I was telling this, one of the satsangs I was telling, way back when I was very young, this Ananda Vigadan used to have the center page, which will have some kind of a very, very complex design, but there is a 3D image hiding in that design. You have to hold the book like this, like this, like this, like this. So me and my brother will, the moment Amma Appa buys that book, we'll quickly start trying to Tamil padikka theriyadu. So we, at that time, so we will directly go into the center page. And there's another Mr. X joke we will read. But then besides that, this is one thing that will go into the center, and we'll try to find that object. On the outside, look very complex design, doesn't make any sense. It'll look very shabby. It's not a beautiful piece of art. But the moment you place it in a particular position and you see that 3D image, Oh my God. That sense of achievement is like, whoa, it was there all the time, but now I'm seeing it. And then once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every time I've tried this, later, during the day or a couple of days later, I'll pick up the same page, tuck, you'll be able to see. Because you've now figured out how to see it amongst that. This is exactly the way that the Upanishad is trying to establish within us, to say that in this world, in this chaotic world, in this completely a world that you don't see the right design, you don't understand what the hell is happening, I'll guide you to see it in the right way. Once you see it, that's it. Then you're on your own. You're on your master, your own. This is what Buddha means by saying you are your own light. You are your own master. This is what it means. Because after that, you don't need anybody. Of course, you are then grateful to the gurus and all of them, but you don't need them. You've come to a place where you've understood that may the truth be established in me. You've been able to see it in the right way. Yeah. So beautiful start, Kena Upanishad. Next week we'll continue. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendriyerva Buddhyatmana Va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Atyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanaayeti Samarpayami Sadashivayeti Samarpayami Jagadambiketi Samarpayami Sadgurunathayeti Samarpayami Hari Om Tat Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Gurudeva.